My colleague Christelle and I traveled to Pakistan and Afghanistan to examine the humanitarian needs of Afghan refugees living in Pakistan, as well as former Afghan refugees who are now returning to their homes in Afghanistan. The first leg of our trip was in Pakistan, where we talked with Afghan refugees about life in their adopted country and also about their expectations of returning to Afghanistan. There are more than 2 million Afghan refugees still living in Pakistan, and the vast majority has been there for close to 30 years. Most are children and were born and raised in Pakistan. For them, Afghanistan is a foreign country, and few want to move back and face an uncertain future. However, the Pakistani government is pressuring all Afghans to return home before 2010. The UN Refugee Agency is trying to prevent this, and Refugees International is asking the international community, especially the United States, to commit to a voluntary process in which every family freely chooses whether to stay in Pakistan or come back to Afghanistan. Some, of course, have chosen to go back home. More than 5 million people have returned to Afghanistan in the past 6 years following the fall of the Taliban. This has been the largest assisted returns process in the UN Refugee Agency's history. Families hop on trucks that drive up the mountainous road between Pakistan and Afghanistan to the famed Khyber Pass. In Afghanistan, returnee families are welcomed in aptly named encashment centers. The UN Refugee Agency gives approximately $100 for every man, woman, and child, along with some small other services. This sum helps out families for a few weeks, but it is insufficient since most families have no land, house, or jobs waiting for them. That's where programs targeted at vulnerable families can make a tremendous difference. Here in Bagram, Afghanistan, we see a new home being built. The family was given the construction material as well as technical assistance on how to build it. Christelle takes notes as the head of the family explains what assistance he has received. These assistance programs are difficult and expensive to set up. From the selection of the beneficiaries to the monitoring of the progress with construction, they require very close follow-up. Returnee families need programs that help them generate an income, which would give them greater access to healthcare and education for their children. In Kabul province, we visited a community which had benefited from a project to divert water into streams for farming. This small dike diverts water into several streams used for irrigation, a fish farm, and a small water turbine that provides electricity to the community. Unfortunately, these types of programs are few and far between. Well-funded development agencies like the U.S. Agency for International Development have yet to become more involved. Families that are returning to Afghanistan are extremely vulnerable. Sometimes they have nowhere to return to. They settle informally on land that belongs to no one, or where they feel they won't be disturbed. This settlement of 86 families came from the Jalozai camp in Pakistan, which has been forcibly closed and bulldozed by Pakistani authorities. They live here with no access to arable land, water, jobs, and medical services. They are hoping that they will be authorized to stay on this plot. The government of Afghanistan has yet to give its approval. The humanitarian situation in Afghanistan is worsening. It's time that we become lucid about the challenges facing Afghanistan. Greater attention to the problems of vulnerable Afghans is not only a moral imperative, but a necessity to bring about stability in an increasingly unstable country. The benchmarks for success should ultimately be measured in the ability of Afghans to rebuild their lives and country.